Greetings YouTube! We have here a Riccar Powerhead, which I think for about 6 months I've been trying to do a service video on one of these guys. I may have done one on a different machine, but they are kind of rare to come in the pretty much working order without having to need replacement, or the parts often take a while, and some sort of situation always arises with these that I am unable to really finish a video on one. So I'm hoping today I'll finally get to do that, because this is probably the best Powerhead that Simplicity and Riccar make. It's what they sell for their central vacuums. And this one's had kind of an interesting thing happen. The pedal just fell off. It needs a little bit of a tune-up. Motor sounds alright. You'll notice it's pretty loud. There's a couple things that make this loud. First of all, it's got a Johnson motor in here, which is a pretty cheapy little run-of-the-mill motor. The second thing is it has this metal base plate and metal brush roller that make this thing incredibly loud. With as often as the chrome comes off the base plate of these, I can't say this makes it any more durable. Another thing that's curious to note is it's made in the US with globally outsourced components. And what that means is that they assemble this machine, and I believe they mold them in the US, but a lot of these parts on here really are from other countries. So I would not consider this made in any particular one country. I would say that this machine is like a Heinz 57. And if I were the manufacturer, I would probably list those countries on the bottom, but that's just me. So the belt is made in Mexico currently. Used to be made in Brazil, so that's kind of interesting that that's changed. Brush rollers are made in China. I'm gonna pull this apart. So here is a little hack. A lot of guys want to pull this thing off when they're pulling this off, and there's no reason to do that. There's more than enough room. Put your drill under there, pull the screw out, and the lid pulls off. You can see how dusty it is under here, and there's a couple of reasons for that dust. One is that it tends to leak here. The gasket just tends to wear out, and this happens on a lot of canisters. Not really a big deal. So this actually does not have a Johnson motor in it. I was wrong. It has a Amtech motor, and it's from Shanghai. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like Shanghai, China. It's nice. It's a interesting place. But that's where this is made. Now we're going to take a look at, yep, that's made in China, that little reset. Everything else seems to be unmarked out. That's generally where these things are. Like I said, they're assembled in a lot of different places. It's hard to say these are made in any one thing. It's not the worst Powerhead. It's definitely better than like the Kenmore Powerheads and some of the other things out there. But like I said, it's just not really made enough parts made in the US for me to call this made in the US. And we're going to quickly just blow this thing out. Alright, much cleaner. So, serpentine belts, we was checking for rocks and things. That one's good. This whole machine is pretty good. So now we just have this little mystery piece, and there's a piece of sticker here, of getting this back on there. Now how that fell out, I'm not sure. It's on plastic, you shouldn't need any sort of Loctite or anything. That being said, I am going to put a little bit of Loctite in that hole, just to be on the safe side, because I don't want it to happen again. That's kind of silly that happened. I've seen this once or twice before, but never on one that's new. And there's a lot of vibration on these, as I've said before. So they definitely need to be Loctite down. Yep, the other one is on the height adjustment is loose too, which is a little harder to get to, but we're going to pull it apart. In typical Taconi fashion, they did make it pretty easy to service, and they did make things so they could come out and be serviced relatively easily. So we're just gonna so it's just vibrated itself apart basically. Some of these have wood brush rollers, some of them have metal brush rollers. I don't really subscribe to the whole metal brush roller thing, as I've said in the past. I think it's kind of silly, and unless you're machining it or have some sort of way of really exactly making that metal brush roller, you're better off going with a composite in terms of longevity. And if you want to make them inexpensive, go with wood. And the cost difference between the making them out of all those different materials would surprise some of you all. I'm sure that you'll find that the composite is actually the most expensive way to go, unless you're machining aluminum, which really only certain high-end vacuums do. It's just not cost-effective or even necessary, coming from somebody whose dad is a machinist. Alright. That raises the question, why am I not a machinist? Well, maybe I am, and this is just a day job. Alright. Let's set our torque a little lower. Get this thing torqued down. Alright, so all the screws on this are loose, just from the vibration of this. And this Powerhead, I have to admit, they've gone through a lot of different revisions of this Powerhead over the years, and this does appear to be that they've finally gotten it the most right I've seen one yet. Again, Taconi, if you're watching this, you know, Visselvec and Lindhaus would happily sell you Powerheads, and we wouldn't have some of these issues. As much as I like having things made in the US, and I prefer that, there's a factory already set up to make something. Let's have it made there. Just get that done. Why engineer that? Why have the manufacturing facilities? Somebody else can do it for the same price, if not less. Now, of course, Taconi might be making these significantly less money than they can buy the Lindhaus or the Visselvec Powerhead, but I know what wholesale to wholesale is on a Visselvec Powerhead, and I kind of highly doubt it, but maybe they are. All right, so it's just rocks together. Oh, I'm gonna sign this. Quick. Usually mark it somewhere so I know that I've been in here. Put this belt on. Whoop, there we go. Make sure all these are clipped in. So again, you don't want to over torque these little screws. They require a lot less torque than a lot of screws. Extra dust off here. Clean this out. Alright, I'll never cease to amaze me. It's so hard for me to do a video all in one take with the customer flow we get here. So we're back to this up. There's a lot of Kirby cake buildup on this particular unit, and that's just a category of having dirty floors and like oily carpets. They need to shampoo more often. Also be willing to bet that this person has an undersized unit for their house if they're getting like this. Even if you have oily floors, these central vacs generally pull up that sort of stuff. Oh, I guess I should have mentioned this is a central vac. This isn't to a Simplicity canister or a Riccar canister, though it is the same power head they put on like the pristine 1700 and 1800 S36 and S15P. Alright, so that's nice and clean. So the brush roller is acceptable. Needs to be, of course, cleaned up. Do that now. I guess one advantage of this particular brush system, this roller, is that you can get different stiffnesses of bristles. But, you know, SIBO sells different rollers that fit in their heads for different customers, and that seems to work just fine, and happens to be less money to the customer and less money to the dealer, so I can't say that that's even an advantage that's unique to this, but it is a theory. But then you have to stop and change the brushes out for the customer, and that's 10-15 minutes in labor if you're selling a machine that, you know, it's kind of an inconvenience. Oh, I'm going to put some soap on this belt to quiet it up, as always. Again, this abnormal Kirby cake, so I'm just cleaning that off these rubber wheels, which attract a lot. Again, there's a lot of effort putting in here to make this a good head. One thing is this has the newer neck assembly, and those necks have been an issue for a long time. Along with the wands. This is an older wand on it. He actually went to a German-made wand at one point because these Taiwanese wands were so problematical. Not because they were made in Taiwan, just because of the spirit of which they were made in. Alright, put this on. And you can see the state of this gasket here, that's just less than favorable. Probably no paint marks even on this. And this is in pretty damn good condition for being a Taconi product coming into my store. They have black walls in their house? Oh! Their walls are black in this house, that's why there's so few paint marks. Comes off. Alright. Get some vac polish on there. that propaganda off. It says, made in the U.S. with globally outsourced components as little as they can write that. And again, as somebody who has a family who manufactures things in the U.S., it is very hard to get all U.S. made components. I understand that. But you don't create along. It's mostly made in the U.S. Alright. Wow, I really do have black paint in this house. That's so weird. I'm gonna clean out red paint, I'd say, more often, or blue. See if we can just clean that up. So just, those are gouges, I guess. Oh, there's my eggs. Alright. So this Powerhead was made in 2010. You can just see the play in that. That's it. It's locked. Now it's released. So I'll give you an idea, kind of your wear schedule. So this is probably going on its last legs. These, I would definitely say these are more of a 10-year life than a 20-year life. Again, Tacony could fix this and just put their name on some of the other Powerheads that are available. Well, as always, please like, subscribe, and comment below.